we're going to have a look at 2 pens in one review, because I thought it made sense. It's the Lamy Studio. I'm fairly sure I've reviewed a Studio before, but this pen recently came out in a new finish, so I thought it would be interesting to show them off. So I will cover the parts of the pen. I will do all of that because it's been a long time ago since I did the Studio review, but it didn't make sense to me to do 2 separate videos on these 2 pens. So it's one video, 2 pens. These pens were lent to me by Joost Appelboom from Appelboom Pennen. Don't forget there's a 10% discount code for that shop on my website, should you be interested in purchasing these, or anything else of course, excluding Mont Blanc. But with these you get a 10% discount. So Lamy, I like the box, simple, cardboard, and I like that metal Lamy logo they do, which is in relief and kind of keeps the box closed. It's quite nice. Sorry. In the box, in this case, 2 pens. Of course, when you buy it, typically there's only 1 pen in it. There will be a little, actually not that little, a sort of Lamy catalog with you know, pens, other pens you can buy from them. And Lamy, as we know, is a very Bauhaus inspired sort of industrial looking pen, manufacturer of industrial looking pens. So here we have the 2 new Studios. I think the Studio is one of their interesting models, a fairly classic look but with a bit of a modern twist maybe. And the Safari, for example, Lamy Safari, Lamy 2000, a very sort of futuristic looking, very specific look. But this is a nice, fairly classic pen shape, I think. I'm going to cover the parts of these pens, I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and then I'll do a writing sample. So we're talking about the piano black and the racing green. Now, because this is a very dark background, I'm not going to show you the parts on this, I'm going to show you the parts on this, because I use a white background, but afterwards I'm going to wave this around and you won't be able to see. So let's look at the parts of the pen first. What have you got? It's very shiny paper side, sorry. Finial, shiny chrome metal. Then you have this interesting, almost spatula-like clip, which I've always enjoyed in the Studio. It says Lamy there, that's pretty much it. So cap, barrel, nice and flush with each other. And then at the end here you have another chrome end cap with a little ridge which helps in posting the pen. I'll show you that in a second. Cap slips off. Nice nib range available, extra fine through broad. And what I should point out now is that on the racing green you get a steel nib, on the piano black you get a gold nib, 14 karat, but the nibs are interchangeable. So you can always switch them around if you want to. This happens to be an extra fine steel nib, definitely very fine. Plastic feed that Lamy does. I think it's a nice shape. I like the curvature on the feed. Then you have this metal section which is kind of barrel shaped, very shiny and very smooth. Come back to that. The pens take the proprietary Lamy cartridges or a converter. Right now this pen has nothing in it. I think I had another one, and I don't know if I put in a cartridge or a converter because yeah, I put in one of these converters. So Lamy converter, Lamy cartridge, you have to buy them because you can't fit standard international in. Okay, the nib, for those of you who are interested, is indeed a Safari type nib. So whether you get the steel or the gold, I'll show you the gold in 1 second, you can exchange them with Safari or All-Star pens. You can even put actually you can put these nibs on the new Ion pen, and maybe you could put the Aeon nib on this. I haven't tried that, but could be possible. So Lamy has a number of pens that have this nib type on it, which makes it kind of modular, which is interesting. Pen posts very securely because of that little ridge there. And then you have a pretty good pen size, I would say. Even unposted, it's a nice size. And because this section doesn't have a clear indentation or anything, you can hold it up a bit more highly if you like, you can hold it a bit lower. So there is quite some space to shift your hands, and that I think can adjust people of varying hand sizes, which is quite nice. As to the gold nib, because I just promised to show you that, the Lamy gold nibs, the safari type gold nibs are quite interesting, to the extent that I'm not actually sure if they are entirely made of gold, but there is a gold strip in there, as you can see. So that at least is yellow gold. So it's not an entirely, I mean, I think it is an entirely gold nib, but it's just the rest is plated, so you really only see the gold in that little strip, which I always found an interesting thing. It's very, visually it's very interesting. Of course, it's not at all unique to do two-tone nibs. Many companies do that, but this, with just that strip, it looks interesting. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just an interesting design feature. Okay, so you have that. So the racing green is a matte finish, which feels like it has a bit of texture. The piano black is, as the name suggests, a very deep, shiny black, which is a lot smoother. In weight, I would say they're about the same. So there is that. Okay, what do I like about them? What do I not like about them? Well, they're classic looking pens, as I said. I mean, I know they have modern twists like the clips and such, but I mean, it's sort of a cigar-shaped pen, except with a flat top. But I think it's fairly classic. Looks nice. I mean, some of the as I said, the Lamy pens are very designer-like, and this is I think a simple concept, but it works well. I really like the posting, the secure posting, that is really secure and tight, and I think that makes for a nicely balanced pen, because to me it doesn't get super top heavy, at least not on the racing green. I'll try it on the piano black, it doesn't either, so the cap is fairly light, which makes the posting secure and pleasant, which I enjoy. The interchangeable nibs are nice. You can easily build up a range, especially in the steel nibs. They are not super expensive, and you can go all the way from extra fine to broad, and then there are even 1.1, 1.5, and 1.9 millimeter metallic nibs you can get in the calligraphy sets. So you have a pretty nice range of nib options which you can easily swap out, so it doesn't have to get very expensive. You have the whole gamut of nibs, so that I think is nice. Both of these nibs wrote well. Both are extra fine nibs, so there is some feedback, but they both out of the box they wrote without skipping, or so that's definitely very nice. One thing I would say is that the Lamy, I think especially in the extra fine nib grade, is known for some inconsistencies in their nib grinds, and I noticed that here too. I wrote it down because I kept forgetting which one was which, but the gold extra fine nib, so that's the one on the, in this case the piano black, actually seem to be finer than the steel extra fine, and both are extra fine nib grades, so from the same manufacturer, of course. So that surprised me a little, that inconsistency. Another thing I will say is that especially this piano black, it's a little bit prone to fingerprints, and that's hard to show off on camera because you really need to capture them in the light, but it gets a bit, it's very shiny, but it gets a bit dull as you use it, and you do have to polish it, which is not necessarily a big deal. Of course, this matte finish with a bit of texture doesn't really have that, but the shiny black does. And that's not unique to this pen. Many pens with such a highly shiny black lacquer finish have that. The final thing I wanted to say was the steel sections on these pens are slippery. There's just no way around it. They are super shiny, they're very highly polished, and they just get slippery. And especially if your fingers get a little bit sweaty as you write for a longer time, they start to slip and rotate. I haven't found any way around that. So there is that. Now, in all, I think you get a pretty nice, well-rounded pen for what you pay, which for the racing green is 56 euros. For the piano black it's 165 euros, but again that comes with a 14 karat gold nib. 165 euros is not inexpensive, but with a gold nib, at least it's a gold nib. I've seen pens at that price that have a steel nib, so at least it's gold if that's important to the user. But especially the racing green, 56 euros. Broad range of nib options, simple cartridge converter, but one that is well made. I mean, tolerances are good, there are no big gaps or anything, there's no sharp edges. It's a pretty nicely made pen. So having said all of that, I think these are interesting pens. We need to see how they write. That's what's coming up next. High resolution pictures of the pens as well as measurements will be on the website sbrebrown.com. A very kind thank you to Joost for lending me the pens. I appreciate it. Hope this was useful so far, and I'm glad to see you later. Bye bye. Okay, so here we go with the Lamy Studio. This is the piano black. The nib is the extra fine 14K in this case, and let's do some writing. There's no real scratchiness, I would say, but being an extra fine, there's definitely feedback. Bit of fast writing. You see there's a little bit of a skip here and there. Wetness, well, it is an extra fine, so it's definitely a bit on the dry side. Line variation, very, very gently. You can see there is some springiness to there. Quite nice. Reverse writing, you can turn it around, and then I would say you go from a fine to what is probably an extra fine to what is probably an extra fine, which may be useful to people, I guess, but I mean it is of course already a pretty fine nib to begin with. Okay, and then just as a comparison, I just had to switch out the converters here, so let me see if this is willing to write. There we go. So this is the steel nib, and this does look to me like it's wider than the gold. It's also a bit wetter and a bit more saturated, and that's not just because I just switched converters. So here you have the T in the 14K, and there you have the T in the steel. So that's interesting. Skippiness, I find this one slightly wetter, and that was also my experience when I did not just change the converter. It was wetter to begin with as a writer. So from here onwards we have steel. Line variation, or maybe wetness first, definitely wetter, and again very, very carefully, line variation. There is a little bit, but not as much as with the gold. And again, neither are flex nibs, so be a little careful. And this one then also does reverse writing, but runs dry faster than the gold, it seems. So, two interesting pens. Joost, thanks for lending them to me. I appreciate it. Guys, I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.